probably don't. I do. Do you know any 15-year-old girls that you know that you've grown up with that have been raped or pimped? You don't. So I don't expect you to understand the issues.
These are all personal issues of yours.
Personal issues in towns and cities like mine that are happening, and they're not happening with the Sikh community. They're not happening with the Jewish community.
And indeed, they're not happening with most Muslims.
No, they're happening within the Islamic community. This is what I'm saying, that it's an Islamic problem.
Well, he had different keys now. After the front page I showed you earlier, it was the Times that broke this story, that exposed it. They carried on a lengthy campaign. And for the avoidance of doubt, Tommy Robinson, like I said, he's not in jail, as so many in America in particular seem to think, for his whistleblowing about the rape gangs. He's in jail for contempt of court, a crime he's committed many times. It's a crime in America as well. You can be jailed for contempt of court in America. People have been. But many in the US seem to see Robinson as a beacon of truth, who's been pivotal to exposing this evil. I don't see him like that. I believe, as Nigel Farage does, the leader of the Reform Party in the UK, that he's now so toxic and so discredited that he is in fact being used deliberately as a kind of opposition sacrificial lamb, with the precise aim of discrediting those who do want to expose the truth. If they make it all about Tommy Robinson, a lot of people will just go, well, he's awful, therefore we shouldn't listen to anything he says. But actually what he says about the rape gangs then and now has turned out to be truth. And the truth must come out. Lessons must be learned. Those accountable must be punished. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, must, as I posted earlier today, order a full, no-holds-barred, independent national inquiry. Well, joining me to discuss all this is psychologist, author of We Who Wrestle with God, the co-founder of the Peterson Academy, my good friend Jordan Peterson. Jordan, great to have you back on Uncensored. You contacted me because you don't agree necessarily with my views of Tommy Robinson. I think we share a lot of views, probably even with him, about the rape gang scandal. There's much to discuss here. First of all, the rape gang scandal itself, with your expert psychologist eye, what has happened here to make so many people so afraid to call it out for what it was, which was predominantly British Pakistani Muslim men?
Why it has to be Muslim? Why can't it be just Pakistanis, man?
Often underage,
dirty ass Pakistani criminals. Not even the whole Pakistani community. Why has to be?
So let's think of.
You have to understand this is based on racism. What they do right now.
Complexity that surround the issue. Okay, so the first is.
Oh, here we go with the fucking hands. Here we go with the hands.
Racial divide that typifies the crimes. So it's.
What's with the hands? What the fuck with these hands? What is he, Spider-Man? This is all performance. This is all performance. He doesn't have to go with these hands and this. Is he trying to hypnotize me? Close your eyes, everybody.
Pakistani Muslim immigrants and white working class young girls. So there's a racial, ethnic, and religious.
So you have to see the history of this thing. This has happened in the United States during the Jim Crow era. It's that beautiful. And during the October 7th, when Israelis lied, the Jews lied, the Hamas raped and shot nails into women's vaginas. They raped all these women. It was all a lie because they want to portray this picture of this brown people having sex with these beautiful, luscious, sounds a little sexy, luscious white women. I had sex with white women all the time when I was in college, and I loved it. But it was consensual, by the way. But the whole idea is, see how he has his hand? What the fuck is he doing? A magic trick here? The whole idea is that this is the whole issue. They want to drive home the word Islam. Islam is evil, and beautiful white women, ivory, right? Who's Abby? Okay, I don't know. Abby and Ivory, the ivory-colored, beautiful white women who are being raped. Okay, there was a lot of shit going on by these neighborhood gangs, whatever you want to call them. They don't represent anything of religious value. They represented themselves as perverts or pedophiles. You want to call them whatever you call. I'm with you 100%. They should go to jail, whatever it is. But when you try to frame the idea that Islam is bad, Islamic, Pakistani Muslim, Muslim Pakistanis, Pakistani Muslims, this is where I find it to be wrong. And I find that the framework has not, they don't even care about the girls that were being molested, whatever it was, or were being raped or being groomed. The majority of these girls were young, but they were consensual sexual act with these kids because they were cool, because they were part of a gang, whatever. And they were underage. That's the whole idea. They were 13, 14 years old. Anyway, let's watch this musician do his lies. He's came here. This is a performance. bench your parents. Like, oh, you got to go in there. Make sure you got to make those, vilify those Muslims. Huh? You got to do it. I'm going to give you a raise. Go ahead.
This divide that is part and parcel of the crime. Then there's a class
Put
issue
your hand in your ass with
to
this
the
fucking...
victims and also the whistleblowers like Robinson. Then there's the meta problem of the difference between Islam and Christianity.
Here we go.
The additional problem that psychopathic sadists use religious justification to camouflage and justify their crimes.
Yes.
Then there's the problem of open borders and immigration and the progressive presumption that...
You see where they're going with it. Now, he has jumped from Islam versus Christianity. He jumped to the border. He's going to put everything together in a mix of stew and stew it together and make one, and going to boil one soup. Put them all together in one soup. These people are driven by racism and by hatred of other people. Crime is a crime. The Catholics banged so many kids. It's almost like the Holocaust in Germany. If we counted all the kids that were raped by the priests and molested, maybe 6-7 million. Millions of children were being raped for 100 years by the Catholic Church inside the churches itself, by priests who are representative of God.
All cultures, no matter their difference, are valuable in their diversity and can be integrated peacefully into society at, what would you say, an indefinite rate. Okay, and then to add another level of complexity, there's the politicking between the progressives and the right wing with regards to all the issues I just described. Okay, so that's like an absolute bloody rat's nest. And there's lies in every one of those, along every one of those dimensions that are extraordinarily deep and pervasive. Okay. And so I was very apprehensive about this discussion with you, Pierce, because there's almost no way of weaving, let's say, our way through this without making egregious errors.
Yeah.
So, okay, so well, let's, on the psychological side, let's point out two primary realities. The first is that sexual misbehavior even of the sadistic kind is to be expected. You might think about it as an aberration from the norm, but it's only an aberration when the norm is deep and profound and the consequence of many years of socialization and centuries of history. Like the default position for an unguarded woman worldwide and throughout history has been rape target. That's the norm, not the civilized conduct that generally obtains between men and women, even in public, like on the streets in the West. And then there's the additional issue that resentful, psychopathic, sadistic, low status, desperate men will use any excuse whatsoever to get access to women.
Yep.
So those are just some of the ugly realities that we have to contend with to weave our way through this complete bloody mess.
Yeah, and it is very complex. But at the heart of it, you also have a massive cover-up where people from local government, from the main federal government, police, social workers, almost everybody whose job it is to protect particularly vulnerable young girls in society. I mean, I can't think of a group you would more want to protect or throw the force of the establishment protective arm around than vulnerable young girls. At every level, they conspired to not just fail them, but they failed them in many cases deliberately because they didn't want to, in their eyes, let off a tinderbox, a racial tinderbox, by telling people, hey, you know what's happened here? A very large number of British Pakistani Muslim men have been systematically raping young, damaged white girls.
It's the whole Muslim will be the whole aim of this whole episode. Has to do with Islam and Muslim. They want to condemn 2 billion people. They want to talk about Islamic country. Do you know what happened to rapists in Islamic countries? Trust me, they don't live. Okay, thank you.
Damaged before they got their hands on them for a very, very long time, and we've done very little about it. And they didn't want to say this because they were terrified that there would be a huge scandal around that, and there would be a lack of, there would be unrest in communities and so on, which to me seems the ultimate in moral cowardice.
Well, okay, I think there's two things going on there, Pierce. The first is the certainty that anyone who would blow the whistle would be subject to the worst possible of cancellations by the woke mob.
Whoa.
And this is partly why I have some sympathy for Tommy Robinson, let's say, because it is definitely the case that to take a stand against this is to make yourself a target for the worst sort of calumny and legal action. So the threat is real. And the cancel culture types are very good at identifying individuals and bringing reputation savaging to bear on them in an extremely effective way. So people have reason to be afraid. Now, I'm not saying that fear justifies their silence or their complicity, but we have to be clear about the fact that their fear is real.
Yeah.
Now, there's another.
So we hit the woke mob. See, there's woke, mass immigration, Islam versus Christianity. Let's go. Let's see what this doctor has to say.
Aspect to that that's even uglier than this, I think, Pierce, which is that, look, we know that when you destabilize a community with rapid transformation, this could be, let's say, with regards to the green agenda that makes energy more expensive, or to uncontrolled immigration.
All right, he's hitting all the boxes, guys. Now he's up to green. Green energy is part of the problem that's caused. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Can we just stick to the Muslims and just hate on them for one? Why do you have to hate on everybody?
Rapid change with economic consequences demolishes the lower rungs of the socioeconomic hierarchy, most particularly, right? They say that when the aristocracy catches a cold, the working class die of pneumonia. And that's a deep biological and sociological truth. Yeah. Now, one of the corollaries of that, and this is where it gets ugly, is that it's very easy for the elite, especially in a relatively class-based system like the UK, to virtue signal about their progressive openness and their cosmopolitan sophistication, while sacrificing the genuinely poor and dispossessed, so the English working class, to the depredations of whatever virtue signaling policy happens to be conveniently at hand.